Hello, everyone, and welcome to Around Town. I'm Elizabeth Graff, and today we're here at Roche Farm and Garden where they have another very informative seminar. And I have Troy Hampton with me. And Troy, you're from ADM.
That's correct.
And tell me, what is ADM?
ADM's Archer Daniels Midland. We're the third largest feed company in the world.
Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, I've heard about you guys. I have a couple of deer hunters in my family. And what are you going to be talking about here today?
Tonight we're going to talk about deer nutrition and how to improve your hunt. And that consists of many things. Mm-hmm. One, food plots or land management. Herd management we'll talk about, and we'll talk about supplemental nutrition.
Right. So you want a good and healthy deer too, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
So what kind of things do people need to think about when they're getting ready for deer season? What kind of nutrition in their food, and what kind of plots do you suggest?
Well, and I look at deer nutrition as an annual thing, not just something I do prior to deer season.
Yeah.
And we'll educate them tonight about that. But for someone just getting started, I like to promote food plots, meaning get out there and plant something, then provide feed, supplemental nutrition, because if you have a drought, your food plot's not going to come up, but your feeder will still be there.
Right.
And then last but not least, we'll talk about herd management, when to harvest. That's very important to good herd management, and allowing bucks to get mature. They get bigger naturally as they mature.
You can get that trophy buck.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And we'll talk about some of the food plot mixes that Roche has and some of their attractants, in addition to all the animal nutrition or the feeds that we manufacture.
Mm-hmm. In Roche, they do have a lot of the ADM products, too.
A tremendous amount. Our Super Deer 20, it's a 20% protein, a 4% fat product. Works extremely well. Our Rack Plus pellet, our Rack Plus mineral, and our new high caliber deer tub. We're the only company on the market right now with a 100-pound deer tub, so you don't have to go in the woods as frequently.
Right.
So that's important closer to deer season we get, and we've already started bow season, so that's really important.
Exactly. And I'm thinking that, if you're feeding the deer what they want and what they like, they're going to be coming back to that same place for more. And so when it comes time to hunt, they're going to be there waiting. That's
right, Elizabeth. What I really like to see is when does start bringing their fawns there. That fawns have been raised on a feeder, and they seem to grow much better than they start bringing their babies. It's a neat thing to see and to watch them develop over the years.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's true. I'm glad you brought that up, because maybe it's not just for the hunters. It could be for the ones who are there to just enjoy the deer as they come, because it is a beautiful sight too. That's right.
I've got a customer in North Georgia. He put out our high caliber deer tub strictly to feed some deer that come in their backyard. And he said he calls them mamas and babies. He said the mama brought her 2 babies in. The first night she kind of looked at the tub, and he said the next morning they were there for breakfast.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so there's a lot of pleasure, and not just hunting, but just observing them.
Well, you know what, everyone? The seminar is just about to get started, so Troy, I'm going to let you go so you can talk to these people and let them know what they need to know.
Very good. Y'all come on out to Roche Farm and Garden. They've got everything you're going to need for deer hunting, hunting supplies, food plot supplies, attractants, as well as good nutrition. Our deer tubs, our deer mineral, and all of our deer feeds.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. And personally, I want to thank Kelly for giving us this opportunity. ADM, we're a large company, but we cannot be successful without dealers like Kelly. ADM, we're one of the largest grain companies in the world. We're the third largest feed company in the world. So, once again, without partners like Roche Farm and Garden, we can't do it. So we really appreciate it, Kelly. The deer business is outstanding. Y'all have got a great market here, and we just want to help provide the right products so all you can enjoy hunting. Well, let's get started tonight. As you all know, I'm Troy Hampton. I'm with ADM. I've been in animal nutrition since the mid-'80s. We've seen nutrition change a tremendous amount. In the mid-'80s, to be honest, we didn't feed deer. They were free-ranging. We had some high-fence operations out west, but we didn't feed deer. We didn't plant food plots. We didn't manage herds very well. We shot everything that walked. But back then, we didn't have very many tags, as y'all all remember. Growing up we ate more deer meat than we did beef. And I was raised on a farm, but cattle, on our farm were very valuable. We couldn't, if we slaughtered them, we were selling them. We still milk twice a day. We sold our milk, our butter in our community, eggs and produce, and we'd slaughter a lot of chickens and process a cow or two. But that was income in the family. So we didn't eat very much beef, but we ate a lot of deer. I spent a good bit of time in Texas, many years out there, and Texas led the way for deer nutrition. We've learned a lot. Now, our company, we're based in Illinois. A lot of good deer management in Illinois, but we're seeing an awful lot of it in Georgia now. There's some great genetics here. We'll talk about that tonight. But deer nutrition, we're going to talk about it in different ways. I'm not going to tell you that I've got one product that you need to feed and nothing else. So we're going to look at several different aspects of deer nutrition tonight. We're going to talk about why it's important. We're going to talk about when should you feed and how. 3 easy questions. And the way I look at deer nutrition, a 3-legged stool. Pretty simple. Y'all have all used a tripod just like Elizabeth's filming on right now. What happens if you take one leg away? That thing's going to fall. And that's the way we've got to look at deer nutrition. And it starts with land management. And we're going to talk about food plots tonight. The other leg to that stool would be herd management. And that's very, very important. Here in the state, and not a lot, but several counties are starting to help with herd management and putting antler restrictions on deer. And last but not least, nutrition. And what you're going to hear from me tonight's not just nutrition, it's supplemental nutrition, and I'll explain that as we go on. Why is nutrition important? Better herd health. You get healthier deer, they can fight disease, you get a lot less loss. Fawns, critical. If mom's healthy, she's going to produce a healthy fawn. If she's not healthy, chances are she may die during pregnancy. She may not be able to support that fawn. And I've got some stats that you'll see later that Georgia DNR has proven that. Okay, bigger bucks. That's what we're all after. Definitely bigger bucks. That's why nutrition's important. Higher carrying capacity. Some folks want to know, what are you referring to, carrying capacity? Let's say you've got 500 acres and there's, let's say, 75 deer on that 500 acres. Let's say they're doing fairly well. If you want to increase your herd population, how can you do that? How can you carry more deer on your land? Through that 3-step process: herd management, land management, and good nutrition. That's it in a nutshell. We want to maximize potential. If you've got good deer on your land, we want to maximize their potential. If you've got good quality bucks, we want to get them even more. Let's say you've got a 120 class deer on your property right now. Next year, I want to see that deer in the 140s. If you've got good quality does, I want you to get more good quality does. Okay, when to supplement? And then when we're talking about supplement feed, does anybody have any idea when's the best time of year to supplement feed? Any takers? Winter? That's a good. Who said that? And you're right. And we're going to talk about winter and why it's important. But spring, very important time. Summer, important, but you're not going to go broke. Fall, winter, and yes, year-round. I'll show you tonight how you can do that economically and let nature help you. All right, this to me is probably one of the most important slides. This data right here indicates why it's important to feed year-round. Like you were saying, wintertime, it's crucial. You look at January, the nutritional requirements of a deer, they're the same. Well, they're going to change, but they've got nutritional requirements. However, nature's not providing them a consistent level field of nutrition. In January, you look how deficient they are in protein, energy, and vitamins and minerals. Okay, on the other hand, look at May and June. May and June, nature's providing them a good bit of what they need. That's why it's economical. If nature's providing what they need, they're going to consume less feed. That's why we refer to this as supplemental nutrition. I don't want you to go broke, and deer will not go broke with proper feeder placement. We put those feeders in areas where they have to travel to them. They're going to travel and get browse. They're going to hit that feeder, then they're going to go browse again. So right here, just remember this chart, and just know that peak time of the year, May and June, nature's providing them what they need. We'll discuss why it's important and why we need to supplement in the fall, winter, and early spring. Okay, when you can supplement feeding also consists, in my opinion, consists of food plots as well. They have an outstanding supply of food plot mixes right here. Now, I feed, but I don't just strictly feed. I've got food plots and we've got feeders. That's why. I want them to hit our feeder, but I want them to hit that food plot, to be honest with you, more than I want them to hit our feeder. But what we want to do is provide that level playing field, good sound nutrition year-round, so there are no gaps. Okay, we're going to break it down into seasons, early season and a late season. That calendar shows you why early season nutrition is key. Okay, breeding ends. We've all seen bucks chasing does. They don't eat. So post-rut, after rut, we've got to put some nutrition back in them. They are in dire needs of protein to rebuild muscle. And it's late in the year, that wintertime you were talking about. We've got to get energy in those deer. In the form of fat. And when you look at a bag of feed, you're going to see it in terms of fat. We also need to put vitamins and minerals in them. But it's also important for antler development, okay, because they're going to be dropping those antlers. Well, you want them to produce another good rack next year. That's very important that they start getting good nutrition early in the year. Late gestation. If you get some does that are getting bred late, they need nutrition because now they're trying to support a fawn. But the most important part, June. When those fawns are being born, we don't know if it's a doe fawn or if it's going to be a buck. And it may be the best buck you've ever had on your property. That's why I want to supplement feed. Now, I keep feed in that feeder at all times. Yeah, I'll tell you, very, very, very few times do they hit it in May and June. They do hit it, but it's very minimal compared to January, February, November, and December. But that's the way God designed nature to provide them what they need those times of the year. Fawns being born and peak lactation. If that doe does not get her nutritional needs met, she cannot lactate properly, lactate enough to produce a good quality fawn. And those things we just talked about, gestation, antler development, when he sheds off, you want him to start growing right away. That picture there, that's what you want. Now, in terms of elk, trophy elk, they look at them with the amount of mass they've got when they're in the velvet. Now, the world record happens to be a rack plus fed elk. He's the world record holder of amount of mass in velvet. If you go to our website, you can see our photo gallery, and you'll see quite a few really nice deer and elk. But yeah, once again, it's key. Proper nutrition at the proper times of year. But to me, that lactation, I get as much joy out of feeding does as I do anything. I get a lot of satisfaction seeing does that have been raised on a feed or at a feeder coming back year after year, and then they bringing their babies. I stepped out of the garage the other night, and just in the back of the woods, near where we've got some food plots, there were two twins. Now, they were away from mama, and they're getting quite large now. But I love to see those does bringing their new offspring to the feeder.
Since our founding, Roche Farm and Garden believes in some simple things: quality service, the best products for today's gardener, and the knowledge and experience it takes to make your next outdoor project a success. When you shop with us, we put you first. We guarantee excellence from our team and the best shopping experience. At Roche Farm and Garden, our heritage continues. We like to think of it as just doing business the right way. Roche Farm and Garden, serving you in 2 convenient locations.
All right. January through May. Once again, May and June, nature's going to be providing them a good bit of what they need. But protein need, fawn. If that doe's not getting ample protein, she's not going to develop a very good fawn. Protein, rack development. Everybody always thought it was a lot of calcium, and y'all have all seen the studies. Now there's a lot of protein. When you grind an antler and test it, there's a tremendous amount. There's actually more protein than anything. Then calcium and then phosphorus. So protein, but usable protein, and we'll talk about that later. Energy needs. January through May, like this gentleman was saying, wintertime, we've got to get energy in deer. How can you do it? We've got some feeds designed to put more energy in them. Then other times of the year when they're getting plenty of energy from nature, you can use one of our other products. Vitamin and mineral. That's key. Back to that level playing field, if we provide all the nutritional needs that doe or that buck's going to need in vitamins and minerals, he'll never be deficient. They're going to get sick, but they can rebound from that quicker. We want to keep their immune response elevated. Okay, now we're going to talk about that late season. Well, this chart will show it a little easier. June, nature's still providing a good bit of what they need, so just know that your deer aren't going to go to that feeder as much. It seems to be the time when I see more bucks hitting a feeder, because mama's out with her fawns, taking them through the woods, they're browsing. But you typically see quite a few bucks hitting feeders at that time, and they'll be heavy velvet during June. More reason that you want nutrition in front of them, just to fill the gaps. The antlers then begin to harden. Hey, we definitely want to know we've got good protein in them. And I refer to good protein. There are other protein sources that are protein, but we'll talk about good protein sources. Okay, what do y'all say? August, September, when those fawns are being weaned, it'd be sure nice if they had a food source. And that could be food plots and feeders. That's the way I recommend you do it, food plots and feeders. Because as mama weans them, they need a source. They're no longer getting it from her. So we can provide that. And economically. Okay, what do you mean by harvest does here? That's part of herd management that we'll talk about later. But I want to harvest does early. We'll talk about that. But then breeding. Okay, we were talking about bucks and how they rut, they don't eat. Okay, well, pre-rut, we want to make sure we get plenty of energy in those deer so they get good body condition, so they can go rut without a lot of detriment to their muscles or skeleton system. So remember, proper nutrition, a lot of different factors. Okay, May through September, getting that mineral and protein deposited in the rack. Peak lactation, that's crucial for good fawn development. Energy requirements double. See, that's our Rack Plus Deer Pellet, an outstanding feed. It's a 17 protein, 2 fat. Great product. During this time of year, I want to feed super deer. Well, why? Okay, it's a 20 protein, but it's not the protein I'm after. It's 4% fat. We've just doubled the amount of energy in the diet, all by switching a product. That's all you've got to do. And then know what nature's providing. If you've got food plots, we know, hey, May, June, nature's providing them a lot of what they need. Just know they're not going to be hitting the feeder very hard. Once again, let's just fill those gaps. All right. As you see here, the protein needs are declining in bucks. Their energy requirement's going to go up, but it's crucial for those fawns. Another reason I like the super deer late season, because I can increase the protein level for fawns because they're being weaned. Those are some of those fawns are your potential bucks, 4 years down the road. Also, the energy requirement or the energy in that feed has just doubled if you just changed feeds. So now you can meet the buck's needs in energy while you're meeting that fawn's need in protein. And then once again, as I talked about, she's weaning that fawn. We've got to get all the energy requirements out there. Okay, food plots or feeders? I've already told you, my answer is food plots and feeders, because we all experienced drought. Now, I will say my son planted some food plots this year. We had, matter of fact, he got one in the ground, and the good Lord rained on it that very afternoon. And he got germination in about 4 days, and, food plots are coming on very well this year. But we've all experienced years where we've had some drought, and they just didn't do very well. I still recommend that you plant them. You got to plant them. A couple years ago we planted. They didn't come in very well. Late season, they finally got some moisture and they blossomed then. But that's just a question. If you plant it, will it grow? If it grows, will they eat it? I don't know what all my deer are eating, but I do watch them on the trail cam, and I can see if they go to my feeder and for how long. I can see if they go to the food plot and for how long. Now, I can't tell you exactly which one of those plants they like eating the most, but I'm going to plant it. All right. Do you supplement feed? How many products do you handle? I'm not telling you to handle Rack Plus deer pellet and super deer. I've showed you an easy solution. Now, I've got some folks that, they may have plenty of soybeans, so they feel like I don't need the super deer. The Rack Plus is a great product. It's, like I said, a 17 protein, 20 in the super deer. Once again, do you actually know what they're getting? That's why I like to provide a buffet for them. We'll talk about another product that we're providing now that seems to be working extremely well. And do you have endless time and money? I don't. The time thing's probably more important to me than the money. We're going to do what's right by our deer, but I travel a lot, so I need products that are, I can fill the feeder, I can plant, and I can forget about it. There's a few questions. Rack Plus, and Rack Plus is ADM's nationally branded product. Anywhere across the country, you're going to see Rack Plus. We're in a unique market that we manufacture super deer, and we manufacture super deer because we had several different needs than they had in the Midwest. Midwest, they're raising a lot of grains. Y'all raise quite a bit down here, but across Georgia, North Georgia, we don't see any grains. So parts of Alabama, I sell a lot of super deer in Alabama, but that was a regional product, only available here. But we want to provide you a total package. Yes, we've got this protein and that protein. We've even got super deer in a 24 protein. We get some high fence operations that want a higher protein. At certain times of the year, it's very important. All right, we're going to talk about our lineup. There's that super deer 24 that I was telling you about. I like that middle of the road, that super deer 20. Our Rack Plus deer pellet, which they stock here, our Rack Plus mineral. Let's say you feel like you've got ample forage, ample browse. You may even have some grains. You don't have enough vitamins and minerals, I'll be honest with you. And we'll talk about our vitamin and mineral packet that's in that Rack Plus. And then last but not least, that high caliber deer ration tub. That's a new product. We designed it last year. The only one on the market that's a 100-pound deer tub. All right. Organic trace minerals, citrus stem, thermal care. What's that mean? If you look at the bottom of this super deer banner, you're going to see our logos for citrus stem, thermal care. We're Organic trace minerals are very important. Organic trace minerals, and we'll start there. We've all known about chelates. Chelates are very, very usable, absorbable, I'll say. An organic is much more absorbable. They're more bioavailable in the system because it's a one-to-one bond. For instance, if we're looking at a zinc molecule, they'll bond it one-to-one with a methionine molecule, which is a great amino acid. When we looked at chelates, they would take that same zinc molecule and they would attach a chain of amino acids. Took them time to break those amino acids down to actually get to that mineral, the zinc, copper, cobalt, manganese. Those are the four major ones. So we utilize organics. We want them to be available as soon as they uptake the feed. All right, citrus stem. All right, I told you earlier, ADM is the largest grain, or one of the largest grain companies in the world. Now, we manufacture flour, we manufacture cooking oil, citric acid. In our citric acid plant, we had a product that was coming off of that plant that they thought was garbage. Well, we started testing it in our lab in Illinois and realized that there were some very good benefits to it. It had the ability to bind antagonists, which are E. coli, salmonella, just to mention a couple. Well, citrus stem, as it would bind that, what we noticed is it would bind it and then it would actually pass through the animal. So it never had a negative effect once it was bound. So we started utilizing that in all of our feeds. Our poultry division, they actually utilize it as a natural coccidiostat. So we knew the benefits were there, so we've added it to our deer feeds. We want to improve their overall health, helping you manage herd health. And then last but not least, thermal care is in there. Helps them regulate their body temperature. During the hot summer, if we can keep their core body temperature a degree cooler than deer that aren't eating thermal care, they seem to get up and browse more. They seem to get up and go look for feed or foodstuffs. Y'all have all seen cattle that lay in the pond all during the hot part of the day or get up under the shade trees. Thermal care, we can take those same cattle, and we've done this out in Missouri. We took two ranches that were a couple miles apart, put one on thermal care and one not. Same time of the day, we went by the one farm, their cattle were in the pond. You went by the other pond, or the other farm 2 miles down the road on thermal care, those cattle were actually grazing. University of Georgia did a great study for us, and everything that they tested stayed a degree, their core temperature was a degree cooler. So we just want to keep those deer even more comfortable. If they're eating our product, we might as well provide them the best we can. All right, Super Deer 24. These are all the same. When you look at Super Deer 24 and Super Deer 20, they're exactly the same other than the protein content. Now, earlier we were talking about protein. It's very important, as y'all well know. Multiple protein sources is the way we manufacture our deer feeds. It's almost like time-release fertilizer. We get some proteins that are utilized very early in the digestive process. And then we've got others that are utilized later, what we call bypass proteins. So what we want to do is present protein to them in such a way that they get even absorption throughout the digestive process. Digestible energy and fiber. Now, when we put soluble fiber in a diet, it's not just fiber. If you've got their rumen working extremely well, they actually can pull energy from fiber, good soluble fiber. So we put good usable energy like a soy product. We won't put an animal fat in there. We've got soy products in there and then soluble fiber sources. Once again, our Super Deer products contain thermal care, organic trace minerals, citrus stem, and that Super Deer 24, a great time to feed it is when you have really poor forage. That's why a lot of high fence operations went to that. They've got a tremendous amount of deer pinned up. Browse is gone. So they actually, they saw the benefit in the Super Deer 24 because browse tends to go away quicker in high fence operations. All right, Rack Plus Deer Pellet. Great product. Once again, I've told you it's a 17 protein, 2 fat. But once again, the multiple protein sources, good soluble energy, vitamin mineral packets are in there. And when we look at the vitamin and mineral packet, we want optimal development. We don't want just the bare bones. We want you to, for instance, when you look at Super Deer, you'll see more vitamin A in that product than any product on the market. Because we knew some high fence operations or ranches that had high carrying capacities. They needed some added A. And you see there, the reasons why we've run the vitamin and mineral packets the way we do for optimal growth, optimal development, for growth, for health, for reproduction. Some of you may be totally happy with the feed that you're feeding right now. But if you look at that tag and they have no vitamins and minerals in there, I'd be putting something out. Now, I like using our Rack Plus Deer Mineral as an attractant. Deer crave salt at certain times of the year, and we will not put adequate salt in a feed. The reason being, it's a limiter. If we put the amount of salt that they need in this feed, it's going to limit their intake on feed. We don't want that. I'd much rather put it in a 25-pound bag. The way I recommend it, dig you a small hole, pour that in the hole, and leave it. The deer will lick it straight out of that hole. If it rains, it leaches into the earth. You've created a natural lick. And you'll be surprised. Well, no, y'all probably all done that, or some of you probably have, and created a natural lick. It's also been weatherized. Our WeatherMaster process, when it leaches into the soil, the zinc, for instance, will go into the soil. It doesn't separate through our WeatherMaster process. But natural source vitamin E is probably one of the keys. Keeps immune response elevated, much more absorbable than this synthetic vitamin E. And now that natural source vitamin E we use in all of our feeds as well as the mineral. Something I'm really, really proud of. Last year, I was telling you earlier, we designed this high caliber deer ration tub. Multiple protein sources just like the feed. We balanced the vitamin and mineral needs. Contains our citrus stem, natural source vitamin E, but it's a 100-pound pressed tub. When you look at that tub, you'll see the corn in there, you'll see the roasted soybeans, but you'll see all the dry matter. We didn't want to put a poured tub out there that's predominantly moisture. We wanted it to have all the dry matter that deer need. And consumption, as you'll see here, can be extremely low. 1/2 pound to a pound per head per day. Well, the way I recommend that you utilize that tub, it's in a plastic tub. I like to take it flip it upside down and pop the tub off. It will then shed water, and when we turn the lights back on, you'll see this display here actually shows it with the tub removed. It sheds water very well. Then deer can eat from every edge. And I'll show you later a buck just to the west of my house that has camped out on one. That product there, if you wanted to add a feeding station, that to me is the easiest way. Now, they sell some great deer feeders here. If you want a deer feeder, they've got them. Our feed works very well through these gravity feeders. But if you want to create a feeding station and you don't want to invest in a feeder, this is the easiest way to do that. You can take that tub out there, pop the tub off, and go home. Let's say and put a trail cam on it. If you want to test an area, a couple weeks, go check that trail cam. If you don't have the traffic that you desire, put that thing back in the tub and move it somewhere else. Test those areas, but that thing will create a great feeding station without the expense of a feeder. A couple unique things about that. It's a 19 protein. Great protein, but a 6 fat. So back to the energy needs. If it's wintertime and I've got tubs out, I can get in a 1/2 pound per head per day. If that buck just even goes by there, he's probably going to get his energy needs met. Those fawns that need energy, they can meet their energy needs right there at that tub. Customer called me from North Georgia. I'd put them in touch with a dealer up there. They wanted one of those tubs. All they wanted it for was for Mama and some babies that come up in their backyard. He called me a few days after he bought one, and he said, first night they came up, and he said they kind of looked at it, but they wouldn't eat it. And he said the very next morning they were there, and that's what they had for breakfast. And he said they've been hitting it ever since. So, it may take a day or two for them to get used to it. If you want, sprinkle some corn around the edge of it, just to help ease that shock of what is it. All right, that third stool is herd management. That says it all. Wait, don't shoot. When I was in Texas, we had a deer out there we nicknamed White Sox. He was about 4.5, and he was about a 170 class buck. Most of us would have taken that deer. We wanted to see what he would do in a year, from 4.5 to 5.5. Okay, he's getting more mature, which at 4.5 they're very mature. I wouldn't want to shoot a 2.5-year-old buck because I know he's only going to get better. But at 5.5, White Sox was harvested, and he was a 192 class deer. He gained 20 measurable points in 1 year. That's why we think, let's just don't shoot. Once again, and we are concerned about, if I don't shoot him, so-and-so down the road's going to shoot him. Well, if you're providing food plots and feed, and they've got good cover on your property and water, chances are he's not going to go down to old so-and-so's. That carrying capacity on your land, you're going to have it. He's going to camp out at your place and probably stay there. Okay, herd management. Allow bucks to reach maturity. When you look at a deer, he may be an 8-pointer, but look at his neck. To me, it tells on them. If their neck ties in really well with their shoulder, chances are he's getting 4.5 years old. If he's got a little old skinny neck tied onto a big body, he's probably not there yet. And harvest does early. The reason I say harvest does early, if you'll look what the Georgia DNR stats were, all the research they pulled, fawn recruitment had dropped 26%. Now this was last deer season. It had dropped 26%. That means, in my opinion, if we shoot does late season, I'm shooting a pregnant doe. Now that doesn't mean if she's still got a fawn with her that's still got spots, I'm going to let both of them walk. But that doe that's already weaned her fawns, early season, that's when I'm going to harvest her in October. So I don't harvest her when she's pregnant. I don't shoot my buck that's going to be 4 years old, in a few years. So that's why we want to harvest does early. Some more good reasons to harvest them early. Let's say on your hunting land, y'all want to harvest collectively 20 does off your property. If you harvest them early, there's less competition for food during that winter months when things are scarce. Very important. There's going to be more competition for breeding. And that means old buck, he's going to be moving around looking. And once again, we're not harvesting those does that have already been bred. And if we can get those, harvested early, get our does bred back earlier, you see, we're going to get lower mortality rate. That recruitment that Georgia DNR talked about, we're going to get great recruitment. And we'll see that number change. And then they'll breed back easier. If we can get get those does cycling, less competition with those bucks, get them all covered early. We want to get them covered early, November, so you don't have late gestation. All right, Rack Plus, Super Deer. Once again, I like it 365 days a year. These are questions that get asked quite often. How should I start feeding deer? Most of you probably have fed deer. I like to start putting feed in a feeder, and then once again, feeder placement's key. We don't want to have to ask deer to travel out of those areas that normally they wouldn't move out of. We've got our feeders near food plots, and I'll tell you, it works well. I've got trail cam footage of deer. They'll go straight through the food plot to the feeder. We've timed them. They'll spend 2 to 5 minutes at the feeder, but I've filmed them, and they'll spend 20 minutes in that food plot. That's how it's economical. I want those things closer together so that food plot will pull some of that pressure off that feed, and then I can actually afford to keep it full. But yeah, just keep in mind, don't ask them to stray further than, if you're hunting a really good trail, you want that feeder or that food plot as close as you can get, legally. How many feeders do I need? Terrain dictates this tremendously. In the North Georgia mountains, 1 feeder per 100 acres wouldn't work very well. You actually up there, it's so hilly, you may put 1 every 25 acres. Down here, we see, 1 every 50 to 100 acres. Once again, if I've got a big feeder in the middle of 100 acres, I can put out some of those deer tubs and create some substations, some subfeed stations. And then how much should those deer eat? Now these numbers, when you're looking at a deer feed, 3 to 5 was in high fence. In open range deer, you'll probably see consumption 2 to 4 pounds. If it's a drought situation, you're going to see 3 to 5. Now, if it's drought, they're not getting anything from nature. I'll just be honest with you. And any vitamin and mineral, it gets locked up in the soil, so the plant doesn't have it either. But once again, that deer tub, very economical at a half a pound to 1 pound per head per day. But once again, we're not substituting what nature providing. We want to supplement. All right, how much protein do I need? Deer need 16% on average. Many of us take deer feed and blend corn with it. Believe it or not, you can take Super Deer 20, it's a 20 protein. If you added corn to that product at a 50-50 ratio, you can still provide 16% protein. Now, Roche, they've got a great price on deer corn. I've bought plenty here myself. Blended with Super Deer, you can provide all the vitamins and minerals that they need, all the protein that they need, and good energy. With a 4% fat in that product, works very well. But as you can see here, their natural browse, it's providing them decent protein, but still, their natural browse isn't providing them exactly what they need. So once again, let's just fill the gaps with a proper nutrition, be it Rack Plus or Super Deer. And then once again, like Super Deer 24, the Super Deer 20 and 24 work very well when you've got low or poor quality forage or no browse. Now, there's some state parks that I've been to that have a tremendous population of deer, and those folks have to feed, or else those deer just look emaciated because there's absolutely no browse in June and July. Hard Labor Creek is one of those state parks that we've done a lot of stuff up there over the years because those deer were just pitiful and actually leaving the park looking for browse. All right. Why can't I just feed corn? You could. First of all, you're not going to provide enough protein, good energy, but the vitamin and mineral content's not there. The cow-phos ratio's off. But corn, very reasonable here. If it helps you take that corn, blend it with a product, provide all that you need, all that those deer need.